Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Joey Logierno will start at pole position for the 13th race of 2012, and Kurt Busch-Tire will be suspended this race because of something he did in the second division. And Speedy Comet would accidentally start a crash that wrecked a bunch of cars. Michael McDrivewell would also accidentally start a crash. Reb Meeker would be out on lap 40 because of an engine failure. And Mitchell Carblow, yes, Mitchell Carblow would be out on lap 47 for the same reason. And Kyle Busch-Tire would be 18th as of lap 76, where he wrecks AJ Carmeninger. Why, you mean yellow car? And Phil Tankson would be 9th as of lap 80. Who does he wreck? He wrecks the mean yellow car, Kyle Busch-Tire. Hooray! And Casey Corner would be out on lap 139 because of an engine failure. And Joey Logierno would lead the most laps, leading for 69 laps this race. But Mark Carton would be in the lead on the last lap. But Joey Logierno bumped him out of the way! Why? And this move would lead him to win the 13th race of 2012, with Mark Carton finishing second this race, Tony Gasworth third, Lightning McQueen fourth, and Denny Carlin rounding out the top 5. And Eric Carmarola is the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 28th this race. Jimmy Cables will start at pole position for the 14th race of 2012, where Chip Gearings is out on lap 1 because of an engine failure. And Mike Splatlopper would be out on lap 5 for the exact same reason. And Rex Revler would hit the wall too hard on lap 7, which means he's out. Same with Ace Arrowhead on lap 14, but except he had a cut tire. And Joe Ricci would be out on lap 30 because of an engine failure. And Bill Racelot would be out on lap 37 because he got really tired. And Ryan Newcar would be out on lap 42 because he hit the wall really hard. And Kyle Busch-Tire is 22nd as of lap 61, when he wrecks Ernie Gearson. Why, you mean yellow car? And Jimmy Cables would accidentally wreck a bunch of cars and himself on lap 142. And Speedson Larson would be out on lap 191 because of an engine failure. Martin Carx Jr. would be out on lap 266 because of a cut tire. And Joey Logierno would be 23rd as of lap 382, where he wrecks Todd Marcus. Why, you mean orange car? And Phil Tankson would be 18th as of lap 384, where he wrecks Kevin Karvik and Joey Logierno. That makes a bit more sense. And Tony Gasworth would go down a lap as a result of this caution. Matt Karzith would lead the most laps, leading for 269 of them. But Lightning McQueen would win the race, winning the 14th race of 2012, with Brad Karslowski finishing second, Matt Karzith third, Kyle Busch-Tire fourth, and Cal Weathers rounding out the top 5. And Denny Carlin is the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 23rd. Even though Tony Gasworth did not finish on the lead lap, here is what he had to say at the end of the race. I made this clip a bit longer so you could read all of it. But the point is, Tony Gasworth is angry that not enough cars wrecked out, and the mean green car, Chick Hicks, had something to say about it. But mean green car, nobody likes you! And Cal Weathers would start at pole position for the 15th race of 2012, where JJ Traley would be out for this race because he couldn't make it to the track on time. As a result, Thomas Sanders will replace him starting 43rd. And Speedy Comet would be out on lap 7 because of an engine failure. And Ralph Carlo would be out on lap 9 because he hit the wall too hard. Scott Rims would be out on lap 27 because of an engine failure. And Joe Brakecheck would be out on lap 32 because of yet another engine failure. Kyle Busch-Tire would be 9th as of lap 35, where he wrecks Bobby Swift, the defending champion. Why? And Michael McDrivewell would be out on lap 41 because of an engine failure. And Thomas Sanders would accidentally wreck Jamarcus Cakehart and himself on lap 68. James Garrison would be 10th as of lap 125, where he wrecks Joey Logano. Hooray! James Garrison wrecked the mean orange car. Kurt Busch-Tire would be 18th as of lap 132, where he wrecks Denny Carlin. Why? And what happens next? Casey Corner would be out on lap 151 because of an engine failure. And James Garrison would be 4th as of lap 157, where he wrecks Kyle Busch-Tire, the mean yellow car. Hooray! James Garrison wrecked both mean cars. And Ken Schrader would be out on lap 203 because of an engine failure. And Kurt Busch-Tire would be out on lap 294 because of an engine failure. I'm surprised Kurt Busch-Tire didn't say that word! And the very next lap, Mark Carton would also be out because of an engine failure. Ernie Gearson, Ricard Smith, and David Gillicar would all go down a lap as a result. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would lead the most laps this race, leading for 197 of them, and he goes on to win the 15th race of 2012, 4 years out from his last win. James Garrison would finish 2nd this race, Tony Gasworth 3rd, Matt Karzif 4th, and T.G. Castlenut rounding out the top 5. Reb Meeker would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 25th this race. Kyle Busch-Tire would start at pole position for the 16th race of 2012, and he would wreck a bunch of cars. Why? Ken Schrader would go down a lap on lap 293 because he was just a bit slow. And Denny Carlin would lead the most laps this race, leading for 155. And Casey Corner would be in the lead on the final lap. But he runs out of gas! Oh no! What will happen? Bruce Miller would take the lead and get his very first win, winning the 16th race of 2012. T.G. Castlenut would finish 2nd this race, Casey Corner 3rd, Denny Carlin 4th, and Clint Bokar rounding out the top 5. And Chip Gearings did not have an engine failure this race, and he is the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 31st. Lightning McQueen would start at pole position for the 17th race of 2012, where Chip Gearings would go airborne on lap 1 because of Doug Throttleman. Why? But on the very next lap, he would be out himself because he hit the wall too hard. Jamarcus Cakehart would fail to wreck Joey Logano on lap 19. And also, Sebastian Silva would also fail to wreck Joey Logano on lap 27. Kyle Busch-Tire is 19th as of lap 38, where he wrecks Phil Tankson. Why? We actually like Phil Tankson! But Andrew Axler would enter the track in Phil Tankson's place. And Rex Revler would be out on lap 92 because of an engine failure. And Ernie Gearson would be out on lap 110 because he got tired. And the mean yellow car, Kyle Busch-Tire, had this to say about Ernie Gearson. And Andrew Axler did not take kindly to the mean yellow car's comments. Even Craig Shiftwright, his old rival, agrees with Andrew Axler. And Matthew Overdrive would be out on lap 157 because of an engine failure, and Speedy Comet would once again accidentally wreck other cars and himself. Dino Draftsky would be out on lap 206 because of an engine failure, and Kevin Karvik would be out on lap 275 because of Ryan Webster? Why? And he would go out of his way to apologize to everyone. At least he apologized, unlike Kurt Busch-Tire, who had to retire from the race on lap 276 because of an engine failure. And Kurt Busch-Tire, don't say that word! And Andrew Axler would retire from the race on lap 327 because he got really tired. Cal Weathers would lead the most laps this race, leading for 84 of them, before going on to win the 17th race of 2012, with his friend Lightning McQueen finishing second behind him, Clint Bocard finished third, Jimmy Cable's fourth, and Tony Gasworth rounding out the top 5. Todd Marcus would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 32nd. Matt Kenseth would start at pole position for the 18th race of 2012. AJ Carmeninger will be suspended until he is reinstated because he was caught cheating. And also, Sam Carnish Jr. will replace him in the number 22 Pennzoil car. But it will be Tommy Highbanks who will qualify 43rd this race as a result. And Piston Cup fans are booing the mean green car, Chick Hicks, as he actually qualified. And Josh Shiftson cries as Buck Beeringley did not qualify for this race. But Piston Cup fans had a reason to cheer because Manny Flywheel was the grand marshal of the race. Unfortunately, Rex Revler would be out on lap 3 because of an engine failure, and Doug Throttleman would be out the very next lap because of a failed jump. And Todd Marcus would be out on lap 10 because of an engine failure. Tommy Highbanks would be out 6 laps later for the exact same reason. David Stremrim, who somehow qualified for this race, would be out on lap 25 because of an engine failure. And Joey Logierno would be 24th as of lap 46. When he wrecks Jack DePost. Why? And Phil Tankson would retire from the race once again, to be replaced by Andrew Axler, who would replace Phil Tankson on lap 47. Bill Racelot would be out on lap 123 because of an engine failure. And the mean green car, Chick Hicks, would be 5th as of lap 124. With Rex Lightning McQueen. Why, you mean green car? And as a result, Piston Cup fans are once again booing the mean green car. And he's like, "What's up, guys? You know what's up, you're wrecking other cars!" And James Garrison would shove the mean green car on lap 127. And Piston Cup fans cheer as Moray Clutchburn took the lead on lap 129. Jamarcus Cakart and Andrew Axler would both shove the mean green car on lap 130. And once again, Kurt Buschtire would be out because of an engine failure, this time on lap 132. And Kurt Buschtire, don't say that word! And Brick Hicks would be out on lap 133 because of an engine failure. And Mike Yankee Jr. would shove the mean green car on lap 135. And Cal Weathers would do the same 3 laps later. Bobby Swift, 2 laps later, would also shove the mean green car. And Tony Gasworth would nearly wreck Chick Hicks on lap 142. And Piston Cup fans cheered this. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would also shove Chick Hicks on lap 145, and Chip Gearings would unfortunately be out with an engine failure on lap 149. The mean green car would be 13th as of lap 261, where he wrecks too many cars! Why? But Sebastian Silva would wreck the mean green car on lap 279. And this would lead Piston Cup fans to cheer Sebastian Silva because he wrecked the mean green car. More good news because Piston Cup officials have decided that Chick Hicks, the mean green car, will be banned from the Piston Cup from now on. And this would lead even more Piston Cup fans to cheer. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. would be out with 2 laps to go because of an engine failure. Matt Kenseth would lead the most laps this race, leading for 183 of them. But Tony Gasworth would be the winner of this race, winning the 18th race of 2012. Jeff Burnton, the jumper, would finish 2nd, Matt Kenseth 3rd, Joey Logierno 4th, and Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, would round out the top 5, and Jamie McCarry would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 14th. Denny Carlin would start at pole position for the 19th race of 2012, where Chip Gearings would accidentally wreck Floyd Mulvihill and himself. Kyle Bushtire would wreck too many cars. His older brother Kurt would be out on lap 126 because of engine failure, and he said the word again! Kurt Bushtire, don't say that word! And Matt Karzith would be out on lap 233 because he hit the wall too hard. And Lightning McQueen would lead the most laps this race, leading for 199 of them, and he would go on to win the 19th race of 2012, with Kyle Bushtire finishing second this race, Greg People third, Dale Earnhardt Jr. fourth, and Brickyard rounding out the top 5. Casey Gears would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 34th. Cal Weathers would start at pole position for the next race, the 20th race of 2012, where Doug Throttleman would be out on lap 1 because of a failed jump. And Matthew Philip Wheel would be out on lap 2 because he failed to wreck another car. And his crew chief, WJ Lights, is his crew chief, and he says this to Matthew Philip Wheel. Rex Revler would go down a lap as a result of this caution. Joey Logierno would wreck too many cars. Why? But on lap 302, Jamarcus K-Kart would wreck Joey Logierno and himself. And Piston Cup fans booed Jamarcus K-Kart's pit crew after they failed to fix him. Why would you boo the pit crew? It's not like they didn't want to fix their racer, and Kyle Bushtire would wreck too many cars again! And Chip Gearings would be out on lap 378 because of Brian Brooks! Why? And he will be suspended next race. It's not like he's going to qualify, though. He barely ever qualifies. And Clint Bokar would wreck Brickyard on lap 390. Why? And Lightning McQueen would lead the most laps, leading for 139 of them. But Casey Corner would be the winner of the 20th race of 2012, with Morey Clutchburn finishing second, Greg People third, Kurt Bushtire fourth, and Brad Karslowski rounding out the top 5. TG Castlenut would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 19th this race. Kurt Bushtire would once again start at pole position, but this time for the 21st race, where Bobby Swift somehow qualified 40th, and the mean yellow car would wreck Martin Carrix Jr. on lap 10. And Reed Soren car would accidentally cause a crash that wrecked many cars. And Joey Logierno would wreck other cars on purpose. And then Chip Gearings would be out because of an engine failure on lap 86. Dirksen D'Agostino would be out nearly 200 laps later because of another engine failure. Kyle Bushtire would be second as of lap 281, where he wrecks Jimmy Cables. Why? And Sam Carnish Jr. would be out on lap 299 because of an engine failure. And Brickyard caused a crash that wrecked 4 cars, including himself. And here is an image of the crash. But Eric Carmarola will not be out after the crash. A car that will be out is Will Draftrev, who had an engine failure on lap 313. And the mean yellow car was the car that led the most laps, with 237 laps led. But Lightning McQueen will be the winner of this race, with Kevin Carvick finishing second, Denny Carlin third, Kyle Bushtire fourth, and Jamarcus K-Kart rounding out the top 5. Reb Meeker would be the last car to finish on the lead lap of the 21st race, finishing 26th this race. And there was also a crash at the end of the race after everyone crossed the finish line. Lightning McQueen would start at pole position for the 22nd race of 2012, where Dino Draftski would accidentally cause a crash that wrecked other cars and himself. Speedy Comet would be out on lap 16 because of an engine failure. And Kurt Bushtire would be out on lap 98 because of another engine failure. And Don't say that word, Kurt Busch-Tire! And TG Castlenut and Juan Pablo Montoya would accidentally wreck each other out on lap 161. Carl Edwards would also wreck out, but on lap 178 because he hit the wall too hard. Jamie McCarry and Rex Revler would also accidentally wreck each other on lap 183. And the mean orange car would wreck Phil Tankson on lap 387. And this is what he said afterwards. Why? And James Garrison had this to say to the mean orange car. And then he would wreck him on lap 391. Hooray! Chad Motorgas would be out on lap 421 because of an engine failure. And Matthew Overdrive would be out for the exact same reason on lap 438. And he goes on to advertise the iPhone 5 after he wrecks out. Lightning McQueen would lead the most laps this race, leading for 189 laps, but Michael Cartrip would accidentally cause a crash that would wreck a bunch of cars. And here is an image of the crash. And this was on the final lap. Matt Karzith would come out of the crash and go on to win the 22nd race of 2012 with a pink paint scheme. Darren Leadfoot would finish second this race. Kyle Busch-Tire finished third, Jimmy Cables fourth, and Ricard Smith rounding out the top five. Cal Weathers would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 21st. Jimmy Cables will once again start at pole position, but this time for the 23rd race of 2012, where Ernie Garrison would be out on lap 4 because of an engine failure, and Jack DePost would be out on lap 76 because he hit the wall really hard. Danny Kerbin would do the same thing one lap later. Rev Rodages would be out on lap 105 because of an engine failure, and Kyle Busch-Tire would once again wreck other cars. Why? Michael McDrivewell would be out on lap 208 because of another engine failure. Will Draft Rev somehow qualified again, and then he gets flipped on lap 212 by Speedy Comet. Why? But on the very next lap, he would wreck out himself after hitting the infield wall. And then Joey Logierno would wreck other cars again. Why? And Alex Food would be out on lap 306 because of an engine failure. Bobby Swift would lead the most laps this race, leading for 302 laps, and then he would go on to win the 23rd race of 2012, where his friend Lightning McQueen would finish second this race, only losing by 6 feet. Jimmy Cables would finish third, Phil Tankson fourth, and Darren Leadfoot would round out the top 5. Chip Gearings, who did not have an engine failure once again, would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 31st this race. Brickyard would start at pole position for the 24th race of 2012, and Reb Meeker and Brian Sparks would accidentally wreck each other on lap 18, and Kyle Busch-Tire would once again wreck too many cars, and James Garrison would get flipped on lap 269 because of Joey Logierno. Why? But James Garrison is not out. Unfortunately, Chip Gearings is out because of an engine failure once again on lap 306. Rex Revler would be out for the very same reason the very next lap. And Carl Edwards would be out on lap 311 after going into the catch fence somehow. Jamie McCarry and Ralph Carlo would accidentally wreck each other out on lap 322. Cal Weathers would lead the most laps this race, leading for 342 of them. And he would go on to win the 24th race of 2012, winning quite comfortably. And Brickyard would finish second this race, followed by TG Castlenut in third, Phil Tankson fourth, and Clint Bokar finishing fifth, rounding out the top 5. And Jeff Burnton would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 29th this race. And here are the standings after 2/3 of the season has been completed. Lightning McQueen is the points leader, but Cal Weathers is less than 200 points behind him. Greg People is in third, with Bobby Swift not far behind him in fourth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is also comfortably in the top 5. Matt Kenseth just a handful of points behind him, with Jimmy Cables around 100 points behind Matt Kenseth, just barely ahead of Brad Keselowski and Clint Bowcar in 8th and 9th. Denny Carlin is only barely hanging on to a spot in the top 10, as Brickyard is less than 10 points behind him. Kevin Harvick and Tony Gasworth are a little bit of a ways behind Brickyard, about 50 points behind. And Martin Truex Jr. is somehow in the top 20. Casey Corner is 15th, just barely above Phil Tankson in 16th, with Carl Edwards just behind him. Kyle Busch-Tire is in 18th, just like his number. Ryan Newcar is in 19th, and James Garrison is in 20th position, despite DNQing 3 times.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
I hope you enjoyed this video. It took me a really long time to make this one. Well, consider that the video is around 30 minutes long. But this was a very entertaining stretch of the 2012 Piston Cup season. James Garrison, by the way, is ahead of his rival Joey Logano, who's 21st in points as of this moment, with 2/3 of the season gone by. Comment down below what you will think will happen in the last third of the 2012 Piston Cup season. The next video, which will cover the rest of the 2012 Piston Cup season, aside from the final race, that video will hopefully be coming out soon enough. The 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on, despite the fact that it has been over 1 year and 8 months since the start of the invasion. Nobody wanted this. Not the Ukrainian people, not the Russian soldiers fighting in the war. Only Vladimir Putin. Tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin. Only he wanted this war. Because he's greedy. Why would you start this war? Have you forgotten that Russia is the biggest country in the world? And also, the Ukrainian people mean no harm. And as a result of his greed, hundreds of thousands of people have unfortunately died. Ukrainians and Russians. And millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee from their homes because of not just the war, but maybe even because their house was destroyed by it. This is the responsibility of Vladimir Putin, the tyrant and bully. Why did he have to do this? Even his own people are suffering as a result. Vladimir Putin was wrong to think that this war was going to be easy. He was proven wrong by the tenacity of the Ukrainian people and the bravery of the Ukrainian soldiers, as well as their president, Volodymyr Zelensky, refusing to flee Kyiv. We here at the hashtag YouTube channel don't just stand with Ukraine and hope for an end to the war. We hope for Ukraine to regain all lost territory. All of Ukraine's territory is shown in this image. This image includes Crimea, the Donbass, as well as the entirety of the Kherson and Zaporizhia oblasts. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava! Nechai Shvitsya Daretsia! Ukraini Peremoha!